The families of the 90,000 who would have died demanded that humanity be allowed to stay. In the end, the vote was 39-8 and the diplomatic station was neutral ground, far from any star. Inside a secure meeting room, humans sat across from two groups. On one side, leaders from the Concordance. On the other, captured Kravaxi commanders under guard. This meeting wasn't scheduled on anyone's calendar. It wasn't supposed to happen. But after humanity's victory, everyone wanted answers. Warlord Krev, the highest-ranking Kravaxi prisoner, stared at Captain Taymin with hatred. "You fight like cowards," Krev said through a translator. "Hiding, deceiving, striking from shadows. We fight like survivors," Taymin replied calmly. "There's a difference. The Concordance follows rules," Krev continued. "Weak rules that let us prey on them for centuries. But at least they have honor. You have nothing but tricks." "We have victories," Taymin said, "and your people are either dead or in prison. Tell me which matters more." Krev started to respond, but a new voice interrupted. "Perhaps we should ask the fundamental question." Everyone turned to see an older human entering the room. He wore a simple uniform with the rank insignia of Philosopher General. This was Sang-Woo, humanity's chief military theorist. "The question," Sang-Woo continued, taking a seat, "is not about honor or courage or civilization. The question is, whose rules should govern warfare? The ancient protocols have governed warfare for 3,000 years, Arbiter Lysander said. They are accepted by all civilized species. All civilized species who chose to join your concordance, Sang-Woo corrected. The Kravaxi rejected your rules. Humanity never even knew your rules existed until a few months ago. So why should we follow them? Because they represent the best of what we are, Speaker Krell said. Without rules, warfare becomes chaos, becomes evil. Sang-Woo nodded. Let me tell you about human history. For thousands of years, humans fought each other. We had rules too. Codes of honor. Knights in armor who fought by strict protocols. Samurai who followed elaborate rituals. Soldiers who lined up in formations and fired on command. Then you abandoned these rules, Rex said accusingly. No, Sang-Woo replied. The rules failed. They failed because they made war safe for warriors while civilians died. They failed because following them meant losing to those who didn't. They failed because honor without victory is just a fancy word for defeat. He pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's history. We tried ritualized combat. It led to centuries of endless wars. We tried international rules. They were ignored when convenient. We tried treaties and protocols and civilized agreements. And millions died because we cared more about following rules than about ending wars. So you became barbarians, Narvo said. No, Dr. G1 spoke up. We became effective. There's a difference. Humans learned that the only rule that matters is survival. Not your survival or my survival or some abstract concept of honor's survival. Just survival. Period. Ambassador Yuna added, The Concordance has beautiful rules for warfare. They minimize casualties among combatants. They protect infrastructure. They preserve dignity. But they have one fatal flaw. What flaw? Lysander asked. They don't win, Yuna said simply. The Kravaxi raided you for 200 years. You followed your protocols perfectly. You fought honorably. You maintained your principles. And you lost, repeatedly. Krev laughed suddenly. She's right. You Concordance fools made it easy. We knew exactly when you would attack. Where you would attack. What weapons you would use. Fighting you was like hunting tame animals. And fighting humans? Taymin asked. Krev's laughter died. Fighting humans is like being hunted. You never know where they'll come from, what they'll do. You can't predict them, can't prepare for them. They adapt faster than we can respond. Sang-Woo leaned forward. That's because humans evolved differently than you. Most species in the Concordance evolved as prey. Herbivores herd animals. Your survival depended on cooperation and following group behavior. Your rules reflect that. Stay together. Move predictably. Avoid risks. And humans? Krell asked quietly. Humans are predators, G1 said. We evolved by hunting. By competing with other predators. By adapting to every environment on our planet. We learned to work together not despite being predators but because of it. Pack hunters. Cooperative killers. And we brought those instincts into our civilization. She pulled up comparative data. Look at the Concordance Wars. They last for centuries with minimal casualties. Why? Because both sides are afraid of escalation. Afraid of chaos. Afraid of what might happen if they break the rules. And human wars? Lysander asked. Human wars are short and terrible, G1 admitted. We escalate quickly. We commit fully. We use overwhelming force, and then we stop. Because we're so scared of what we can do that we build systems to prevent wars from starting. Sang-Woo stood and walked to the holographic display. The Concordance asks us to follow rules that make war civilized. But humans learned something different. We learned that civilized war is a contradiction. War is chaos, violence, survival. You can't make it pretty. You can only make it rare. How? Frex asked, genuinely curious now. By being terrifying at it, Sang-Woo replied. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other. We got very, very good at killing. We developed weapons that could destroy entire cities, entire continents, eventually the whole planet. And that scared us so much that we created rules with real teeth. Not rules that make war neat, rules that prevent war entirely. Until war becomes necessary, Narvo said. Yes, Sang-Woo agreed. Until war becomes necessary. And then we do whatever it takes to win quickly and completely. Because prolonged war creates more suffering than decisive war. Bora, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. The Kravaxi killed 40,000 Concordant citizens over 2 centuries. Humans killed 47 Kravaxi warriors in 3 days and ended the threat, which caused more suffering. The long civilized conflict or the short, brutal solution? The room went silent. Nobody had an answer. Taemin looked at Krev. You asked why we don't follow your rules. We asked, whose rules? Now you know. We follow our own rules. The rules of survival. And what are these rules? Lysander asked. Sang-Woo considered the question. Rule 1, avoid war if at all possible. Rule 2, if war is unavoidable, win quickly and decisively. Rule 3, use overwhelming force to minimize total casualties. Rule 4, never let fairness get in the way of survival. Rule 5, always remember that the dead don't get to judge your methods. That's barbaric, Krell said, but his voice lacked conviction. That's effective, Yuna corrected. And right now, effectiveness is what the Concordance needs. Your protocols work wonderfully when everyone follows them, but they fail against enemies who don't. Humanity offers a different approach, not to replace your rules, to supplement them. Admiral Hyun-Woo, who had been observing quietly, finally spoke. We're not asking you to become like us. We're offering to do the dirty work you can't. When enemies threaten you and your rules can't save you, let us handle it. We'll be your last resort, your backup plan, your survival option. And what do you gain? Lysander asked suspiciously. Allies, Hyun-Woo said simply. Humanity is alone in the galaxy. We don't want to be conquerors or rulers. We want partners. We want to be part of something larger than ourselves. But we won't pretend to be something we're not. We're predators who learn to cooperate. You're cooperators who never learn to hunt. Together we might actually survive. The meeting continued for hours. Philosophical debates, ethical discussions, practical considerations. But the real decision came when the alarm started again. A Concordant security officer burst into the room. Arbiter, long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet entering Concordant space. Unknown configuration. Over 10,000 ships. They're headed directly for the core worlds. Every being in the room stood. The holographic display shifted, showing the approaching armada. Who are they? Lysander demanded. Identification matches historical records, the officer said, voice shaking. The Vryn Imperium. They were expelled from the Concordance 1,000 years ago for refusing to follow the protocols. They've returned. The room erupted in panic. The Vryn Imperium was legendary, a species so aggressive that even the ancient Concordance, less rigid than the current one, couldn't tolerate them. They'd been cast out and had vanished into deep space. Now they were back and they had 10,000 ships. How long until they reached the core worlds? Hyun-Woo asked, already calculating. At their current speed, 11 days. How long to organize a Concordance defense fleet following proper protocols? Yuna asked. Lysander consulted his advisors. At least 4 weeks to issue proper challenges. Mobilize forces according to treaty obligations, and organize command structure. So they'll conquer half your territory before you can respond properly, Taemin said. What choice do we have? Frex asked desperately. We cannot abandon the protocols. They define who we are. Hyun-Woo looked around the room, at the desperate Concordance leaders, at the captured Kravaxi, who suddenly seemed small and insignificant. at his fellow humans who were already thinking tactically. You have one choice, Hyunwoo said. Follow your protocols into extinction or let humanity show you what survival looks like. You can't possibly defeat 10,000 ships, Narvo said. Maybe no. Fleet Commander Wu Jin studied the tactical display in the dimly lit command center. The Draken system showed in 3 dimensions before him, with 5 red markers indicating Crovaxi fleet positions. Each fleet surrounded a colony world. Each colony held thousands of civilians. Time to arrival? Wu Jin asked. 17 minutes, his navigation officer replied. Wu Jin's task force was small. 3 cruisers, 5 destroyers, and 2 specialized operations ships. Nowhere near enough to win a straight fight against the Crovaxi numbers. But Wu Jin hadn't built his career on straight fights. Communications, send this to all concordance forces in the system. Tell them to stay out of our way. If they want to help, they can rescue civilians after we're done. Captain Yoonji entered the command center, dressed in black combat armor. Her special operations team was ready. 20 soldiers who could do the work of 200 if they were used correctly. We've analyzed the Crovaxi ship designs, Yoonji said, pulling up schematics. Their hulls are tough, but they have weak points. Here, here, and here. Life support systems are centralized. Take those out and the crew has maybe 10 minutes. You'll need to get aboard their flagship, Wu Jin said. Already planned for it, Yoonji replied with a cold smile. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Draken system. Immediately, Crovaxi ships began moving to intercept. Their formation was aggressive, confident. They had numerical superiority and they knew it. What they didn't know was that half the human ships were decoys. Wu Jin had studied the Crovaxi. They relied on intimidation and overwhelming force. They expected enemies to either flee or fight according to predictable patterns. They were used to opponents who followed rules. Deploy the ghost signals, Wu Jin ordered. Human electronic warfare systems came online. Suddenly, the 3 cruisers appeared as 9. The 5 destroyers looked like 15. Fake transponders lit up across the system, showing human reinforcements arriving from multiple directions. On the Crovaxi flagship, Commander Gresh watched his screens fill with enemy contacts. How many ships? He demanded. Scanners show at least 40 vessels, his tactical officer reported. More arriving every minute. Gresh felt uncertainty for the first time. His intelligence had said the humans were sending a small force. This was an invasion fleet. All ships defensive formation, Gresh ordered. Prepare for the human destroyers struck. They came in fast from angles the Crovaxi weren't watching. Railguns fired. Not at the Crovaxi ships, but at their sensor arrays. Blinded, the Crovaxi fleet lost coordination immediately. Clever, Gresh admitted. But we still have superior numbers. Then the cruisers opened fire, and Gresh realized the humans weren't aiming at his ships. They were aiming at the planet's atmosphere, creating thermal blooms that interfered with targeting sensors. They're using the planet as cover, Gresh's tactical officer said. We can't get clean firing solutions. The human ships vanished into the sensor dead zones they'd created. When they emerged, it was behind the Crovaxi formation. They hit the support vessels first, the supply ships and communication relays. Gresh's fleet was larger, but suddenly it couldn't see, couldn't communicate, and couldn't coordinate. Individual ships fought independently, exactly what the humans wanted. Captain Yoonji's operations team launched from their ship in small, stealthy pods. The Crovaxi were focused on the cruisers and destroyers, their attention pulled in a dozen directions. They never saw the pods approaching. Yoonji's team breached the flagship through a maintenance port. The Crovaxi had excellent hull armor, but they'd never considered someone might board them during a space battle. It wasn't in the protocols. Team Alpha, engineering. Team Bravo, life support. Team Charlie, with me to the command center, Yoonji ordered through her helmet communicator. The teams moved through the ship like ghosts. When they encountered Crovaxi crew, they used non-lethal weapons when possible, lethal when necessary, but always quiet, always fast. In the command center, Wu Jin watched the battle unfold. The Crovaxi were brave fighters, he'd give them that. But they'd trained for direct combat against enemies who followed concordance rules. They had no answer for human tactics. Sir, 3 Crovaxi ships are trying to jump to faster-than-light speed, the tactical officer reported. They're running. Target their jump engines before they can engage, Wu Jin said. No one leaves this system until we say so. Human precision weapons struck. The fleeing Kravaxi ships found their escape cut off. Trapped, they fought with the desperation of cornered animals. But desperation without coordination was just chaos. Deep in the Kravaxi flagship, Yunji's team reached the command center. They breached the door with shaped charges and entered fast. Commander Gresh barely had time to reach for his weapon before a human rifle was pointed at his head. "Don't move," Yunji said through her translator. "Your life support is offline. Your engines are disabled. Your weapon systems are about to fail. You have two choices: surrender or suffocate." Gresh looked around his command center. His crew was unconscious or restrained. Warning lights flashed everywhere. These humans had taken his ship from the inside while he'd been focused on the battle outside. "You don't follow the protocols," Gresh said. "What protocols?" Yunji replied. "You're pirates. You don't get protocols. We are warriors. You're whatever we decide you are," Yunji said coldly. "Now are you going to order your fleet to stand down, or am I going to let the vacuum do my job for me?" Gresh looked at the human woman. She was smaller than him, but her eyes held no mercy. He'd raided dozens of Concordance worlds. He'd never seen defenders like this. "I surrender," Gresh said. "On behalf of my fleet, I surrender." Yunji activated the ship's communication system. "All Kravaxi vessels, this is Captain Yunji of the Human Forces. Your commander has surrendered. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Any ship that attempts to flee or continue fighting will be destroyed. You have 60 seconds to comply." One Kravaxi ship tried to run. Wujin's cruisers turned it into debris in 30 seconds. The rest powered down their weapons. The battle for the Dracon system lasted 72 minutes from first contact to final surrender. Human casualties, 3 wounded, none fatal. Kravaxi casualties, 47 dead, the rest captured. Civilian casualties, 0. Dr. Ji-Wan watched from an observation ship, recording everything. Around her, Concordance officials stared at their displays in shock. "Impossible," a Kilaran officer whispered. "How did they win so quickly?" "They didn't follow any rules," a Vrexian observer said. "They attacked from multiple vectors. They used deception. They targeted specific systems. They boarded ships during combat. They prevented enemy retreat. They violated every protocol," the Kilaran said. "And they saved everyone," Ji-Wan pointed out. "Not a single civilian died. The Kravaxi fleet is destroyed or captured. The colonies are secure. Mission accomplished." "But the methods worked," Ji-Wan interrupted. "You can argue about honor and civilization later. Right now, 5 colonies are safe because humans were willing to do what you wouldn't." Across the Concordance, similar battles played out. Human forces hit Kravaxi raiders at 4 other locations. Each time they used tactics the Kravaxi had never faced: ambushes instead of direct confrontation, information warfare instead of honor, speed instead of procedure. The Kravaxi had terrorized the Concordance for 2 centuries. Humans defeated them in 3 days. When Wu Jin returned to Concordance space, he found himself facing angry officials and grateful civilians. The politicians wanted to condemn his tactics. The people wanted to thank him for saving their families. Arbiter Lysander called an emergency session of the council. Wu Jin stood before them, still in his combat uniform. "You violated every protocol," Narvos accused. "You fought without honor." "I fought to win," Wu Jin replied. "That's what you asked for." "We asked you to save the colonies, not to abandon all principles," Vrex said. "I saved the colonies with 0 civilian casualties," Wu Jin pointed out. "How many would have died following your protocols?" Lysander consulted his data pad. "Our projections suggested 70,000 minimum casualties. More likely 90,000, and we might not have been able to stop the Kravaxi even then. So I saved 90,000 lives," Wu Jin said. "And you're angry because I didn't do it prettily?" Ambassador Yuna stepped forward. "The question isn't whether the protocols are good or bad. The question is whether they're effective. For conflicts between Concordance members who all agree to follow them, they work fine. But against enemies who ignore the rules, the protocols become suicide." "Then what do you suggest?" Lysander asked. "Give us a chance to prove there's a better way," Yuna said. "Not to replace your protocols, just to supplement them. Keep your rules for civilized warfare between civilized species, but when you face barbarism, let us respond with strength." "And if humanity abuses this power?" Narvos asked. "Then the entire Concordance can come after us," Admiral Hyunwoo said, entering the chamber. "We're not asking for special privileges. We're offering a service. When someone threatens you and your rules can't stop them, call us. We'll handle it." The council debated for hours, but the people had already decided. Across dozens of worlds, civilians who had been saved by human forces spoke out. The council chamber felt different this time, colder, more hostile. Admiral Hyunwoo walked beside Ambassador Yuna, their footsteps echoing on the crystalline floor. Behind them, Colonel Dongsu and Dr. Jiwon followed in dress uniforms. They were not guests today. They were the accused. Every seat in the chamber was filled. Representatives from all 47 concordant species had come to witness the hearing. Even species that rarely left their homeworlds sent delegates. Everyone wanted to see if humanity would be expelled. Arbiter Lysander stood at the center, his silver skin reflecting the chamber's lights. Next to him was a new figure, a being covered in flowing robes that seemed to be made of liquid metal. This was Arbiter Narvos, the Concordance's chief prosecutor. "Humans of Earth," Narvos began, his voice like grinding stones. "You stand accused of grave violations against the ancient protocols. How do you answer these charges?" Ambassador Yuna stepped forward. "We are here to explain our actions and seek understanding." "Explanation is not required," Narvos said coldly. "The facts are clear. On the 15th day of observation in the Kelvero system, human military forces engaged in combat without following proper procedures. You violated 17 separate protocols. The evidence is undeniable. A holographic display appeared showing the battle. The humans watched themselves destroy 2 Krovaxi ships and disable a third. From this perspective, it looked brutal, quick, efficient, deadly." Hyunwoo kept his face neutral, but inside he was calculating. This wasn't just a hearing. It was theater. The Concordance had already decided humans were dangerous. They just wanted justification to cast them out. "Let us review the violations," Narvos continued. "First, you engaged in combat without issuing a formal challenge 3 days in advance. Second, you used evasive maneuvers and tactical deception. Third, you targeted specific ship systems rather than engaging in general combat. Fourth, you prevented enemy vessels from escaping the engagement zone. Fifth, you continued attacking even after one vessel was clearly disabled." The list went on. 17 violations total, each one displayed with video evidence and tactical analysis. "You fought like savages," a voice called from the upper tiers. It was High Commander Vrex of the Vrexians. "Like animals." "We fought to survive," Hyunwoo said quietly. "You fought to kill," Vrex shot back. "There is a difference." Lysander raised a hand for silence. "Admiral Hyunwoo, you have the right to defend your actions. Speak." Hyunwoo looked around the chamber. Dozens of alien faces watched him, some curious, most disapproving. He thought about the speech Yuna had prepared, full of apologies and promises to do better. But that wasn't going to work. These beings didn't respect apologies. They respected strength. "We were attacked without warning," Hyunwoo began. 3 ships came out of faster-than-light travel and immediately opened fire. They didn't hail us, they didn't challenge us. They didn't follow any of your protocols. They tried to kill us. "The Krovaxi are outcasts," Narvos said. "They do not represent the Concordance." "Exactly," Hyunwoo replied. "They don't follow your rules. So how are we supposed to fight them using rules they don't recognize?" "You could have retreated," Krell of the Killarans suggested. "Fled to neutral space, called for Concordance assistance. And how long would that take?" Dongsu spoke up. "How many of my crew would die while we waited for help?" "Some casualties are acceptable," Krell said. "Better than violating the protocols." The words hung in the air. Several humans in the gallery made angry sounds, but Yuna silenced them with a gesture. "Let me understand," Hyunwoo said slowly. "You would rather we die than fight effectively?" "We would rather you remain civilized," Narvos answered. A young woman in the human delegation stood up. It was Bora, a junior diplomatic aide. She wasn't supposed to speak, but Yuna didn't stop her. "How many?" Bora asked. Her voice carried through the chamber. "How many what?" Lysander asked. How many of your people have died to Crovaxi raids while you followed the protocols? Bora's voice was sharp. How many colonies have you lost? How many ships? How many civilians? The chamber erupted. Aliens shouted in a dozen languages. Translators struggled to keep up. Lysander called for order, but it took minutes to restore quiet. When silence finally returned, Narvos spoke. The Crovaxi situation is not relevant to this hearing. It's completely relevant, Una said, taking control. You're judging us for breaking rules to survive an attack, but you won't tell us how many of your own people have died because you followed those rules. Lysander and Narvos exchanged glances. Finally, Lysander spoke. The Crovaxi have been a problem for 2 centuries. They raid our outer colonies. They attack merchant vessels. We have lost substantial resources to their predations. How many lives? Bora pressed. Approximately 40,000 casualties over 200 years, Lysander admitted. Plus 37 colonies abandoned due to Crovaxi pressure. The human delegation went quiet. 40,000 dead. 37 colonies lost. All because the Concordants refused to fight effectively. And you can't stop them, Hyunwoo said. It wasn't a question. We follow the protocols, Narvos said stiffly. We issue formal challenges. We engage in designated zones. We limit our casualties. This is the civilized way. And the Crovaxi ignore all of it, Dongsu said. They hit you when you're not ready. They target civilians. They don't surrender. They just take what they want. Yes, Lysander said quietly. But we cannot abandon our principles. If we fight like barbarians, we become barbarians. Ji-won stood up. May I speak as a scientist? Lysander nodded. I've studied your histories, Ji-won said. All 47 species, you know what I found? Most of you evolved as prey animals, herd creatures. Your survival depended on cooperation, not competition. You developed civilization before you perfected warfare. Your rules make sense for beings like you. And humans? Krell asked. Humans evolved as predators, apex hunters. We competed with everything, including each other. We learned to kill efficiently or we died out. When we built civilization, we had to create rules strong enough to control predators. Rules with teeth. Rules that made war so terrible that we avoided it whenever possible. You admit you are predators, Vrex said. Why should we trust you? Because we understand something you don't, Ji-won replied. The best way to avoid war is to be terrifying at it. Humans spent centuries fighting each other. We got very, very good at killing, and then we got so scared of our own abilities that we built systems to prevent wars from happening, not to make wars pretty, to make them impossible. Until they become necessary, Narvos said coldly. Yes, Hyunwoo agreed. Until they become necessary. And then we do whatever it takes to survive. Because survival is the first rule. The only rule that really matters. The argument continued for hours. Examples were cited, philosophies debated, accusations made and defended. But the real decision came when the alarm started blaring. A Concordant security officer rushed into the chamber. Arbiter, multiple Crovaxi fleets have launched coordinated attacks on 5 colony worlds simultaneously. They're not following engagement protocols. Civilian casualties are mounting rapidly. The chamber erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted questions. Commands were issued. Communication screens lit up with distress signals. Lysander called for order, but his voice was shaking. How long until we can organize a proper response fleet? Following standard protocol, at least 3 weeks to issue challenges and mobilize forces properly, the security officer said. 3 weeks? Una said. How many people will die in 3 weeks? Current projection is 70 to 90,000 casualties, the officer replied, plus loss of all 5 colonies. The chamber went silent. Everyone was looking at the humans now. Lysander turned to Hyunwoo. His voice was barely a whisper. Can you help? Hyunwoo looked at Yuna. She nodded slightly. He turned to Dongsu and Ji-won. They both nodded. He looked at Bo-Ra, who smiled grimly. Yes, Hyunwoo said. We can help, but we do it our way. No protocols, no schedules, no rules except victory. That would be unprecedented, Narvo said. So is losing 90,000 people. While you organize a proper response, Hyunwoo shot back. Lysander looked around the chamber. He saw fear in every face. Fear of the Kravaxi. Fear of humanity. Fear of making the wrong choice. How fast can you mobilize? He asked. We have forces ready now, Hyunwoo said. Give us permission, and we'll show you what human warfare looks like. The vote was close. 24 species voted yes. 21 voted no. 2 abstained. But it was enough. You have permission, Lysander said. Save those colonies. But know this, Admiral. The Concordance will be watching. If you prove to be worse than the Kravaxi, we will stop you ourselves. Hyunwoo nodded. Fair enough, but you might want to record this. It'll be educational. As the humans left the chamber, Bora whispered to Yuna, Did we just get permission to go to war? We got permission to save lives, Yuna replied. How we do that is up to us. Hyunwoo was already on his communicator issuing orders. Human ships throughout Concordant space began moving. Marines loaded equipment. Pilots ran pre-flight checks. Humanity was going to war, and the galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. Rules were made by the living, the dead didn't get to vote. The Kelvaro system looked peaceful from orbit. 3 planets circled a yellow star, and 2 of those planets were at war. Supposedly, Colonel Dong-Su stood on the observation deck of the human vessel, watching the tactical displays. Next to him, Dr. Jiwon was taking notes on her datapad. Behind them, 30 Marines waited quietly, all volunteers who wanted to see alien warfare firsthand. This is their 4th century of conflict, Jiwon said, reading from the briefing files. The Morvathians and Thexians both claim mining rights to the asteroid belt. They've been fighting over it for 400 years. 400 years, Private Sujin spoke up from the back. That's a long war. According to the Concordance, it's a very civilized war, Dong-Su said dryly. Their ship was in neutral orbit marked with observation flags. 3 other alien vessels were nearby also watching. Apparently, observing wars was a common practice in the Concordance. Educational. Battle begins in 10 minutes, the ship's AI announced. Proceeding to designated observation zone. Dong-Su checked his chronometer. They schedule bathroom breaks too? Ji-won smiled despite herself. The protocols require 3 days' notice before any engagement. Both sides agree on the time, location, and duration. Today's battle is scheduled for 4 hours from noon to 4 in the afternoon local time. What happens at 4:01? Sujin asked. Everyone goes home, Ji-won said. The Marines looked at each other. Nobody spoke, but Dong-Su could read their thoughts. This was insane. The battle began exactly on time. Ships from both sides entered the designated combat zone, a carefully marked area of space 50,000 kilometers across. The vessels were colorful, decorated with elaborate symbols and patterns. They moved in formation like dancers. Why are they broadcasting their positions? Dong-Su muttered, watching the tactical display. Every ship was transmitting its exact location, speed, and weapon status. Protocol requires it, Ji-won explained. Hiding is considered dishonorable. Deception is forbidden. The first weapons fired. Brilliant beams of energy crossed the void, striking shields and armor. Explosions bloomed in silence. It looked impressive, but Dong-Su's trained eye saw the problems immediately. Ships moved in predictable patterns. No evasive maneuvers, no tactical surprises. They just stood there trading shots like boxers who agreed not to dodge. Morvathian cruiser is damaged, the AI reported. It is transmitting surrender codes. The ship broke formation and limped toward the edge of the combat zone. The Thexian vessels didn't pursue. They didn't even shoot at it. They're letting it go? Sujin asked. Attacking a surrendered vessel is strictly forbidden, Ji-won said. It would violate the protocols. The battle continued. More ships were damaged. More surrenders were transmitted. Casualties were counted carefully by automated systems and displayed for all observers to see. When the counter reached the predetermined limit, both sides stopped firing simultaneously. Battle has reached casualty threshold, the AI announced. Engagement concluding early, 3 hours and 12 minutes. The battle had been scheduled for 4 hours, but it ended because they hit their death quota. Both fleets withdrew in opposite directions, nice and orderly. That's it? Dongsu said. That's it, Ji-won confirmed. Tomorrow, both sides will exchange prisoners at the neutral station. Damaged ships will be repaired. In 3 days, they'll schedule another battle. Dongsu pulled up the casualty report. 47 deaths total. 24 Morvathian, 23 Thexian. In 4 hours of space combat. I've seen training accidents with worse casualties, he said quietly. Over the next 2 weeks, the humans observed 5 more battles. Each one followed the same pattern. Scheduled engagement. Designated zone. Predetermined rules. Careful casualty counts. Nobody tried anything clever. Nobody broke formation. Nobody attacked at night or from an unexpected angle. On the 15th day, Ji-won finished her analysis. She called Dongsu to her workspace and showed him the numbers. In 400 years of warfare, total casualties on both sides are less than 50,000, she said. That's including civilian accidents, industrial incidents, and natural deaths that occurred during wartime. 50,000 in 4 centuries, Dongsu repeated. We lost more than that in the Battle of New Seoul alone. Exactly. And look at this. Ji-won pulled up another file. Civilian life on both planets continues normally. Trade, tourism, cultural exchanges. There's a Morvathian restaurant on the Thexian homeworld. During wartime, they're not really at war, Dongsu said, understanding. They're playing at war. It's more than that. I think the protocols serve a purpose. They make warfare safe, predictable, controlled. These species never developed the kind of total war that humans did. They never had to. Sujin and 3 other Marines were listening. One of them, Corporal Minho, spoke up. Is it because they're weaker than us? No, Ji-won said thoughtfully. I think they evolved differently. Most concordant species are prey animals. They have herding instincts. Cooperative behavior. They avoided extinction by working together, not by fighting. And humans? Dongsu asked. Humans are predators. We hunted in packs. We competed with other predators. We learned to kill efficiently or we died out. When we created civilization, we brought those instincts with us. The conversation was interrupted by alarms. The ship's AI spoke urgently. Warning. Unidentified vessels approaching at high speed. Profile does not match concordant signatures. Dongsu was moving before the AI finished. Battle stations. All Marines to your posts. The observation deck cleared in seconds. Dongsu reached the bridge in time to see 3 unmarked ships drop out of faster-than-light travel. They were closing fast and they weren't broadcasting identification codes. Hail them, Dongsu ordered. No response, the communications officer said. They're locking weapons, evasive maneuvers. Shields up. Return fire if they shoot. The enemy ships opened fire without warning. Energy blasts hammered the human ship's shields. Damage reports started coming in. They're not following the protocols, the weapons officer said, shocked. No kidding, Dongsu growled. Target the lead ship. Full spread. Fire. Human railguns spoke, sending solid projectiles at a fraction of light speed. The lead enemy ship tried to evade, but it was too late. The projectiles punched through its hull, and it exploded. The other 2 ships broke off their attack, clearly surprised. They're running, the tactical officer reported. Don't let them. Dongsu's voice was cold. Target their engines. Disable them. But the protocols, they attacked us first. They're not concordants. Take them down. The human ship moved like a predator, fast, agile, unpredictable. The enemy tried to flee, but human targeting systems were better. One ship lost its engines and drifted helpless. The other tried to jump to faster-than-light speed, but was hit before it could escape. It exploded like its companion. The entire fight lasted 4 minutes. Dongsu's ship secured the disabled vessel and took its crew prisoner. They were a species the humans didn't recognize. Insectoid, heavily armored, and very angry. Through translators, they called themselves Crovaxi. They claimed this region of space as hunting grounds. They didn't recognize concordance authority or protocols. You're pirates, Dongsu said. The Crovaxi commander laughed. We are warriors. You are prey. We just killed 2 of your ships in 4 minutes, Dongsu pointed out. The laughter stopped. When the concordance observers arrived to investigate, they were horrified. Not by the attack, by the human response. You didn't transmit proper combat protocols, a killer and officer said. You didn't schedule the engagement. You used deception and evasive maneuvers. You targeted their engines specifically. You didn't allow them to surrender properly. Dongsu stared at the alien. They tried to kill us, but you violated every protocol. This is barbaric. This kept us alive. Ji-won watched the argument from the side. She was recording everything, taking notes. Later, she would write in her report. The Concordance has created rules that work well for those who follow them, but they have no answer for those who don't. Humans evolved in a world where breaking rules meant survival. The Concordance evolved in a world where following rules meant safety. These two philosophies are about to collide. The human ship returned to Concordance space with the Crovaxi prisoners. Word of the incident spread quickly. Some species were impressed. Many were afraid. And in Earth's Defense Command, Admiral Hyun-woo read the reports and knew that everything was about to change. Humanity had just shown the galaxy what human warfare looked like. The question was, would the galaxy accept it, or would they cast humanity out as barbarians? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. The transport ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, and Taemin felt his stomach settle. Through the viewport, he could see the massive station floating in space. It looked like a crystal flower, all sharp edges and glowing lights. This was the Galactic Concordance Chamber, and today humanity would meet 47 alien species for the first time. Nervous? Hana asked from the seat beside him. She was adjusting her diplomatic uniform for the third time. Taemin shook his head. I've faced worse than a room full of aliens. These aliens are offering us a place in galactic society, Hana reminded him. Try to smile. He had survived 3 wars on Earth's colony worlds. He had watched good people die because politicians made bad choices. Now those same politicians wanted him to be nice to creatures he had never met. But orders were orders. The docking process took 20 minutes. When the airlock opened, Taemin expected guards or weapons scanners. Instead, a small blue creature with too many eyes bowed deeply. Welcome, humans, it said through a translator device. I am Guide Vex. Please follow me to the council chamber. The inside of the station was beautiful. Taemin had to admit that. The walls seemed to be made of living light, shifting through colors he had no names for. Alien species walked past them. Some on 2 legs, some on 6, some floating in the air. None of them carried weapons. Where are the guards? Taemin asked quietly. Guards? Vex's eyes blinked in sequence. We have no need for guards. Violence is forbidden in neutral space. Hana gave Taemin a warning look. He kept quiet. The council chamber was enormous. A circular room with seats arranged in rising tiers like an ancient amphitheater. Representatives from dozens of species sat watching as the humans entered. Some looked like insects. Others resembled birds or reptiles. A few were just clouds of gas inside containment suits. At the center stood a tall, thin alien with silver skin. I am Arbiter Lysander of the Concordance, it announced. We welcome humanity to this gathering. You are the youngest species to receive an invitation in 3,000 years. We're honored, Hana said, bowing. Lysander gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air. It showed star systems, trade routes, and defensive perimeters. The Concordance maintains peace across 4,000 worlds. Our member species share resources, technology, and knowledge. In return, all members must follow our ancient protocols. What kind of protocols? Taemin asked. The chamber went quiet. Several aliens made sounds that the translators didn't pick up. All protocols, Lysander said slowly. But most importantly, the protocols of honorable combat. Another alien stepped forward. This one looked like a praying mantis the size of a human. I am Speaker Krell of the Killerans, it said. Let me explain. In the Concordance, warfare is not chaos. It is art, it is ritual. It is controlled. Hana leaned forward. You still have wars? Of course, Krell said. Conflicts arise. Resources are disputed, but we settle these matters with dignity. All battles follow strict rules. Designated combat zones, limited weapons, scheduled engagement times, predetermined casualty limits. You schedule your battles. Taemin couldn't help himself. Naturally, said a bird-like alien from the upper tier. I am High Commander Vrex. My people, the Vrexians, are masters of aerial combat. We know exactly when and where our conflicts will occur. This allows civilian populations to remain safe. Both sides prepare properly. There is honor in such warfare. A floating screen appeared before Hana. Text scrolled across it in dozens of languages, finally settling on English. This is the Treaty of Concordance, Lysander explained. 10,000 pages detailing every aspect of proper warfare. Acceptable weapons. Forbidden tactics, surrender protocols, treatment of prisoners, everything. Tamin scrolled through the document. His frown deepened with each page. You can't attack at night. You can't target command structures. You can't use camouflage or deception. You have to announce your attacks 3 days in advance. Correct, Krill said proudly. These rules ensure that warfare remains civilized. But what if someone breaks the rules? Tamin asked. The chamber erupted. Aliens made noises of shock and disgust. Lysander raised a hand for silence. No species breaks the protocols, the Arbiter said firmly. To do so would be barbaric, uncivilized. Those who reject our ways are expelled from the Concordance and become outcasts. Hana touched Tamin's arm gently. We understand. These are your traditions. We respect them. Ambassador Yuna appeared on a communication screen from Earth. Her face was tired. She had been negotiating with the Concordance for months. Captain Tamin, Diplomat Hana, humanity is grateful for this opportunity. We will study the protocols carefully. There is concern, Vrex said bluntly. We have observed human history through your broadcasts. Your wars are brutal, uncontrolled. You use tactics that would horrify most species here. Chemical weapons, nuclear weapons, total warfare against civilian populations. That was our past, Hana said quickly. We've learned. We've changed. Have you? Krell's mandibles clicked together. Can humans truly follow the protocols? Can you limit yourselves to honorable combat? Tamin thought about the friends he had lost. The battles where victory went to whoever was more desperate, more creative, more willing to do whatever it took to survive. These aliens lived in a fantasy world where war had rules and everyone followed them. We can try, he said finally. Lysander seemed satisfied. Then we offer this. You will have a trial period. You will observe a concordant-sanctioned conflict. You will see how civilized species conduct warfare. Then you will decide if humanity can accept our ways. And if we can't, Tamin asked. The chamber went silent again. Then humanity remains alone, Lysander said softly. Outside the Concordance. Without allies. Without protection. Without access to galactic civilization. Hana and Tamin exchanged glances. It wasn't really a choice, we accept, Hana said. The meeting continued for hours. They discussed trade agreements, technology sharing, and diplomatic protocols. But Tamin's mind kept returning to the combat rules. Pages and pages telling warriors how to fight, when to fight, where to fight. It made no sense. Later, as they returned to their ship, Hana finally spoke. You think the protocols are stupid? I think they're a good way to lose wars, Tamin said. Maybe they don't want to win wars. Maybe they just want to survive them. Tamin looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humans would have to prove they could fight like these aliens, follow rules that made no tactical sense, limit themselves to honorable combat. He had a bad feeling about this. Back in the council chamber after the humans left, the aliens discussed their newest applicants. They are dangerous, Vrex said. I sense it. They are young, Lysander replied. They will learn our ways. And if they don't? Krell asked. No one had an answer. In the dark spaces between stars, something else watched the Concordance station. Ships without markings, warriors without honor. The outcast called Kravaxi saw the human ship depart and marked it as interesting. New prey had entered the hunting grounds. The galaxy was about to learn that not everyone followed the rules. And humanity was about to learn that sometimes following rules got you killed.